Good afternoon, everybody. We'll be starting the presentation at 5:30. We'll be on in a few minutes.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the public meeting for project number 435808-5, that's 5201. The mobility hub at Cypress Creek Road. This project is proposing improvement along Cypress Creek Road, Northwest 59 Court, and North Andrews Way. I will go ahead and introduce the project team. My name is Kenzo Jasmine, the project manager for the Florida Department of Transportation, District 4. And with me today, I have Mr. James Cuomo, who's the Deputy Executive Director for the Broward NPO, Mr. Anthony Georges, Consultant Project Manager with BCC Engineering, Mr. Manuel Sauleda, the Engineer of Record for the project with H.W. Lochner, and Ms. Leila Haddad, the Public Information Officer with MRG. At this time, we'd like to recognize any elected officials that have joined the meeting virtual. If we have any elected officials online, you can use the raise hand feature button if you'd like to make a few remarks. Okay, we don't have any elected official with us tonight. Now here's the agenda for tonight's meeting. First, we'll go over the technical information. the non-discrimination policy and rules of engagement, project location and project background, proposed improvements, temporary traffic control plan, project schedule and cost, questions and answers, and closing and the contact information. Now I'll turn it over to Ms. Leila Haddad for the remainder of the presentation.
Good evening, and again, my name is Leila Haddad, and thank you for being here with the Mobility Hub at Cypress Creek meeting, public information meeting. Slide number 5, please. Oh, this is, no, I need to go back to, sorry about that. Yeah, if you could run that for me, thank you. Slide number 5. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting is being held virtually. Simultaneously, an in-person viewing is being held at the Broward Metropolitan Planning Organization at 100 Cypress Creek Road, Suite 650 in Fort Lauderdale. We're using the GoToWebinar online meeting platform, and there is no cost to the public to log in or to dial into the meeting. Next slide, please, number 6. Technical information. On your computer or device screen, you should see something that looks like a control panel in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. In it, you'll see a question function. That is what you use to send a comment or a question to the team. Next slide, number 7. For those who dialed into the meeting on a telephone line and are viewing a hard copy of the slide presentation, the presenter will announce the page number of the slide being shown on the screen so you can follow along. Next slide, number 8, please. All attendees will be in listen-only mode throughout the meeting. Again, to type your question, use the question function, or at the end of the meeting or at the end of the question and answer period, you can raise your hand and we will unmute you to ask a question. Responses to the comments, again, will be provided at the end of the presentation. Slide number 9, please. This workshop, or this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the website at a later date. Next slide, number 10. Public notice for this virtual public meeting, including information on how to access the meeting platform, was provided in flyers to property owners and tenants in the project area. It was also posted on the Florida Administrative Register, advertised in the Sun Sentinel, sent by emails to persons on the project contact list, and distributed on social media feeds. Next slide, 11. The department encourages the public participation in this project by submitting comments and questions. As mentioned earlier, you can do so during the meeting by using the question function. You could also email the project manager at kenzo.jasmine@dot.state.nl.us. You could also mail to the Department of Transportation at 3400 West Commercial Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale, 33309. Attention, Kenzo Jasmine. All comments and questions submitted through these options are part of the public record for this virtual meeting and will be considered by the Department of Transportation during project decision making. Slide number 12. Rules of engagement. We'll go over most of these again. The virtual public meeting is being recorded. If you experience technical difficulties, please sign out of the GoToWebinar platform and sign back in. All attendees will remain muted throughout the presentation. Attendees are also welcome to submit any questions or comments during this webinar using the question function. Your questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. You'll also have an opportunity to ask questions verbally at the end of the Q&A session. If you are participating via telephone and have questions or comments, feel free to submit them to Project Manager Kenzo Jasmine after the meeting, and response will be provided. Next slide, number 13. Non-discrimination policy. Next slide, 14. The Florida Department of Transportation complies with various non-discrimination laws laws and regulations, including Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This meeting is being held without regard to race, color, national origin, age, sex, religion, disability, or family status. Persons wishing to express concerns about Title VI may do so by contacting either the Department of Transportation District 4 coordinator or Central Office coordinator in Tallahassee. Contact information is on the screen. Next slide, 15. At this point, I will hand it over to Mr. James Cromar with the MPO.
Oh, there we go. Next thing. Slide 16, this is James Cromar, the Deputy Executive Director for Mobility Initiatives at the Broward MPO. Broward MPO is a federal agency that is in charge of establishing transportation policy and assigning transportation funding for the Broward region, the assignment of federal and state transportation funds. Our board is made up of elected officials that represent the communities of Broward County. We have representatives from the 31 municipalities, 5 county commissioners, somebody representing Tri-Rail and the school board, and then the Florida Department of Transportation is a non-voting member. And one of the most important things about the MPO is that our mission is to collaboratively plan, prioritize, and fund the delivery of diverse transportation objects. And part of our vision is also to measure the impacts of those projects. So the point is not only to plan, but to get things done. Slide 17. The purpose of this meeting started with a Cypress Creek Mobility Hub master plan. We looked at an area around the existing Tri-Rail station and the park and ride that is located on the east side of Andrews Avenue. If you can see the graphic, it shows a 1/4 mile and a 1/2 mile circle around the SFRTA Tri-Rail station, the Cypress Creek station, that symbolizes the typical 5-minute and 10-minute walking shift. And then we looked at the opportunities to improve connectivity to transit, to make it easier for people to connect between the buses and the trains. And there were circulators at the time, and there's walking and bicycling. But it was also to encourage economic growth within the area. Cypress Creek area is the 2nd largest employment center in Broward County. And there's a density of people, and it's going to continue to grow. So we wanted to see how to make it work better for the future in terms of variety of uses. There wasn't much residential in the area. And so the outcome of this project has been the city of Fort Lauderdale has done a land use plan to look at how this area should develop in the future, and has looked at some new zoning for this area. There's a portion on the east side of the FDOT lot that is in Oakland Park, and they're exploring some options there too. And then we also identified measures to improve the connectivity for bicyclists and pedestrians. And so you will see those specific projects today in the presentation. They'll be talking about improvements on 59th, Cypress Creek Road, and Andrews Way. But all of this is tied to the facilitation of pedestrian connectivity, bicycling, multimodal access, and less dependence on the single occupant vehicle.
Thank you, James. Good evening. My name is Anthony Georges. I'm the consultant project manager with BCC Engineering. We'll cover slide 18 now. Wanted to go over some background on the project. Oh, thank you, Liv. Wanted to go over some background on the project. This project is actually part of a larger set of overall improvements in the area. The DOT has split into 5 separate projects, segments 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7. Our focus today is going to be segment 5, which you see in the graphic here shown in the yellow color. Segment 5 is currently at a 30% level of design, moving towards our constructability submittal, which is roughly a 60% level of design. Next slide, please. Slide 19. So segment 5 is made up of 3 separate roadways, as James mentioned earlier. The first one is West Cypress Creek Road from Powerline Road to the SFRC railroad track where Tri-Rail runs. The second roadway is Northwest 59th Court from Powerline Road to the Tri-Rail station. And the third is North Andrews Way from the intersection with Andrews Avenue south to the end of the road. Next slide, please. Slide number 20. Now we'll review our proposed improvements for the project for each road. Slide 21. Cypress Creek Road has a mix of different improvements proposed. First, we'll be resurfacing and performing some minor widening on Cypress Creek Road. In addition to that work, we'll be constructing shared use paths on both sides of the roadway. And we'll get into a little bit later what the shared use path is and the benefits to that. On North Andrews Way, we'll be resurfacing and we'll be constructing new sidewalk along both sides of the roadway. And on Northwest 59th Court, we'll also be resurfacing, installing new curb and gutter, and constructing a shared use path along the south side of the roadway and a new sidewalk along the north side of the road. Next slide, please. Slide 22. So now we'll be looking at typical sections for each of the roadways. These slides will all be the same. On the top left, you can see the existing configuration for Cypress Creek Road. On the bottom right, you can see the proposed configuration for Cypress Creek Road. Looking from left to right on the screen, we will be constructing a new shared use path that will replace the existing sidewalk. That shared use path will be 10 feet wide and will accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists along Cypress Creek Road. That shared use path will also be separated by a buffer from the traffic lanes. In the westbound direction of Cypress Creek Road, you can see here we're proposing a right turn lane, 3 through lanes, and a left turn lane. Moving on to the east side of the roadway, there'll be 3 through lanes and a dedicated right turn lane. Similar to what we looked at on the westbound side, there'll be a shared use path that'll be 10 feet wide and accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists and have a buffer separation from the traffic. Next slide, please. Slide 23. Now we're looking at a typical section for North Andrews Way. The existing section has sidewalk and on-street parking. We'll be providing sidewalk on both sides of the roadway and maintaining the on-street parking while resurfacing the existing road. Next slide, please. Slide number 24. This is a typical section for Northwest 59th Court. Currently, there's only a sidewalk along the south side of the roadway. We'll be modifying the roadway to add curb gutter, to add a new sidewalk along the north side of the road, and construct a shared use path similar to Cypress Creek Road, where it's 10 feet wide and accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists on the south side of the road. Next slide, please. On slide 25, and these slides we'll be looking at in plan view and comparing the existing conditions to the proposed improvements for the roadway. You can see here the existing eastbound direction has 4 through lanes, and there's a sidewalk right adjacent to the curb and gutter. Next slide, please. Slide 26. This is our proposed improvements. The blue area is a shared use path that will be 10 feet wide. And you can see that's on both sides of the road, and that's separated by a buffer area from the travel lanes. That's the area that's shown in green. We'll be reconfiguring some of the travel lanes to have 3 through lanes in the eastbound direction and 4 through lanes east of Northwest 6. We're also improving capacity by adding additional storage in the left turn lanes for traffic that's on eastbound Cypress Creek to northbound Andrews. Currently, those turn lanes begin at the railroad tracks. We'll be extending that to the west to accommodate additional storage. Next slide, please. Slide 27. This is the existing configuration of North Andrews Way. There is existing on-street parking, as I mentioned before, and a sidewalk that goes into the driver station. It's not continuing. Slide, please. On slide 28, you can see our proposed improvements with new sidewalks shown in the purple color along both sides of the roadway. As I mentioned before, we'll be resurfacing the roadway. Next slide. Slide 29, we're showing the existing configuration of Northwest 59th Court. The existing roadway is a 2-lane roadway with open shoulders and sidewalk only along the south side of the road. Next slide. Slide number 30. Here, similar to Cypress Creek Road, we're proposing a shared use path that's 10 feet wide along the south side. You can see that in the blue color on the screen. That shared use path will connect from Powerline Road into the Tri-Road Station, and again, it accommodates pedestrians and bicyclists. Also on the north side, we'll be constructing a sidewalk that doesn't exist today. That sidewalk is shown on the screen in purple. It'll be a 5-foot sidewalk separated from the roadway. Next slide, please. In addition to the construction improvements that we mentioned earlier, we will have some streetscape improvements as well. We will be proposing new signage for the Tri-Road Station. We'll mark the entrance to the Tri-Road Station with entry pylons. One will be at the southeast corner of Powerline Road in Northwest 59th Court. You can see the renderings here of what that sign may look like. And the other sign will be at the southwest corner of North Andrews Avenue and North Andrews Way. Again, this will serve as wayfinding signage to guide people to the Tri-Road Station. Next slide, please. Slide 32. So there's a number of benefits associated with the improvements here. Number one is improved connectivity to Tri-Rail, and it encourages future transit development. As James mentioned, that was a major driver for this project. We want to make sure that we're providing multimodal access to transit. We're also increasing capacity by extending the left turn lanes from eastbound Cypress Creek Road to North Andrews Avenue. We're improving safety by providing a shared use path on both sides of Cypress Creek, as well as a shared use path along the south side of 59th Court. That shared use path is physically separated from the travel lane, so it improves safety for pedestrians and bicyclists. And then we'll be providing new sidewalk on both sides of North Andrews Way and the north side of 59th Court to improve pedestrian connectivity overall. Next slide, please. Slide 33, our temporary traffic control plan. Next slide. Slide 34. To construct these improvements, there will be impacts to traffic, and we will set up a temporary traffic control plan to address these impacts. Work is going to be done in phases to reduce the effects of construction to the community and to the traveling public. We will maintain the existing number of lanes during peak hours, but there will be lane closures required in off-peak hours, and these lane closures will be coordinated with City of Fort Lauderdale to comply with all local ordinances that are required. We will provide pedestrian detours and pedestrian connectivity at all times, and we'll maintain access to all properties as well. Next slide, please. Slide 35, we'll review now the project schedule and cost. Slide 36. Currently, as I mentioned, this segment of the project is in design. We submitted our initial plans, which is roughly a 30% level of design, moving to our constructability submittal, which is roughly a 60% level of design. We're expecting completion for the design to be in fall of 2022, with a construction start date in the spring of 2023. The estimated cost for the project is $4.8 million. Next slide. All right, slide 37. I'll turn it back over to Leila for our question and answer session.
Next slide. As mentioned earlier, well, that concludes our presentation. And as mentioned earlier, please submit any questions or comments you may have using the GoToWebinar panel question function. I'll read the questions that come in. Can you see any? I can't see on the screen. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand.
Leila, we do have a question. So I'll read out the question and maybe we can provide an answer. I'll read it from here because we can't get up. But the question is, what type of crosswalk improvements does the project include to cross Cypress Creek more safely at Powerline Road? And Manny, step in. So at the intersection of Cypress Creek and Powerline Road, we are proposing some modifications to the signal in the area, and we will be redoing the existing crosswalk in the area, but ramps will be replaced to meet current ADA criteria, and there will be a dedicated phase for pedestrians to cross the road.
Can I give some background, please?
Sure.
This is James Cromer with the NPO, giving some additional background. When we started this study way back in about 2014, 2015, I have photos that I took of the intersection of Powerline and Cypress Creek Road. That was the intersection of Powerline, right? Yeah. And there were signs there that had pedestrians and then a circle with a slash through it. There was only one crosswalk on the east leg of that intersection, crossing north and south on crossing Cypress Creek. But any of the other crossings, crossing Powerline Road on the north and south side or on the west side, was not permitted. And so during the course of this work, the state has coordinated with the county and did get crosswalks put in there. So I'm glad to hear that there's going to be upgrades to that. But this is the kind of project where we identify stuff, little by little, different improvements come in. And so I'm glad to see we're building on what 5 years ago was a place where pedestrians were encouraged not to. And I don't know where they would have crossed otherwise, because there wasn't a signal anywhere for a large distance.
Yeah, we were just looking there. There will be high emphasis crosswalks on that crossing as well. Are there any other questions?
I have other questions. Questions? Slide. Next slide, please. Next slide. And we covered that. Next slide. Here is the FDOT project manager contact information. If you later think of a question or have a comment, please feel free to reach out to Kenzo in any manner that's convenient to you, whether it be by email or phone, and of course by slow mail. As there are no more questions, that concludes our presentation. Kenzo, do you have anything else to add?
No.
Close it out and thank everybody.
You know, we still open for questions. Right? Yeah. At this time?
Yeah.
We'll wait a few minutes to see if any other questions come in.
No, they go downstairs with the 4 to the 6 ones. But we didn't expect too many people. I didn't expect nobody.
I said 5. I lost that. So.
Yeah, one question. Is an NPO person, is an NPO person. Opens and Blvd. I thought we don't have controversial.
I'll be sure.
More than that, there'll be plenty of complaints from this building. If it closes on the road, I'll just go. Work.
As there are no further questions, we thank you for attending this evening, and I hope you found it beneficial. And again, feel free to reach out to Kenzo if you have any other questions or comments later. Have a good evening.